Hey, everybody. We are the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Kristen.
And I'm Dr. Erin.
You are exceptionally welcome to our YouTube channel today. And always, to be completely frank, we are two social scientists with PhDs in people, more or less, how they work, how they build cultures, how those cultures impact them, and what we can learn from everybody else around us about being a better human. We have conversations in service of that about everything from why people care so much about flags to what we can learn from Oscar award winning and Oscar nominated films to what Bridgerton has to say about things other than happily ever afters. And believe it or not, there's some there. We talk all the time. We'd be happy to show you our WhatsApp chats. And we love hashing this stuff out with each other. Don't get us wrong. But what we really, really love is when you talk back and we get to hear your thoughts and feelings and we get to learn from you. So please don't hesitate whenever you are watching this to tell us your thoughts and feelings on our thoughts and feelings.
This video is a part of our Colonizers World Tour series, which we started. And we're like, we'll do it for the rest of 2021. And y'all, we're planned out all the way into 2023 because, spoiler alert, colonization has had an impact everywhere, whether you are the colonizer, the colonized, or both. This month, we are in French colonies, and we are in Africa, in the country of Cameroon. If you saw our video yesterday or previously on the playlist where we talked 101 about Cameroon, the only country in the world named after a crustacean. It's my favorite Jeopardy fact. So our piece of art today is a 2020 film available on the Netflix called The Fisherman's Diary. It's based on a true story, and it was Cameroon's Oscar entry for that year. It's set in a small fishing village, we believe in the Anglophone region of Cameroon, because people speak a mixture of Anglophone and what was the dialect? Come talk. So they go between, so have the subtitles on, number one. And it's about a father and his daughter, their relationship, her desire to get educated, to get an education, which is very much culturally a no-no in their small village. And you know, it's very similar, I think, to some of the other films we've watched for Colonizers World Tour in countries where girls and women don't have a lot of autonomy or choice. So very similar to Osama in some ways, very similar to Wajda, which was about a young girl in Saudi Arabia who wanted to go to school.
Queen of Katwe, about a chess champion in Uganda.
This is a similar story told around the world. This one is told in Cameroon. It doesn't go so great for our Eka until the end. It's a very long film.
Yes, both in time and in the amount that we aged while watching it.
Maybe aged us. We're going to be brutally honest. We didn't watch every minute of it. We skipped a good chunk in the middle. It's very slow. It's one of the more beautifully shot films we've watched. Like, cinematography, gorgeous. It's so lived in. It gives you such a great feeling for what life is like in this small Cameroonian fishing village. The script, y'all, big problem. Very confusing, hard to follow. The story was not 2.5 hours long worth of telling, but they took that long to tell it. So Dr. Kristen, what would you like to share about our journey, brief though it was, in The Fisherman's Diary?
We're going to link to a couple reviews in the living Google Doc that you have underneath the video about a lot of other things about Cameroon. And essentially their consensus is ours. It's messy. It needed a little bit more editing. It needed tightened up a little bit, but the things that are there are important. Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, what happens is she wants to go to school. Her birth mother or the guy's first wife, I honestly can't tell the difference.
It's not made clear.
Not really sure the relationship there. The woman that he was in love with at some point, her father, left him because she got educated and wanted a bigger life.
Yeah.
And so he blames education. This is very common. This is common in the United States as well, in families where education is not valued. This is not a thing that happens in countries without educational infrastructure. This is a thing that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I liked that reveal was a little too long in the movie for me, but how it was constructed, I thought was quite good. And then there's a whole lot of machinations about an uncle and a money. And some of this is that it's based on a true story. And I can imagine that they are connected to this family somehow, maybe even Eka herself. And they wanted to tell the story richly. And that's great. This is also a great example of sometimes you need somebody who doesn't know anybody to just look at it clinically as a story and say, these chunks aren't necessary for us to get the context kind of thing. Yeah. Which is a little bit of some of the uncle stuff that I think. She's eventually sold into marriage as a 12-year-old and which happens around the world. Again, just a heads up. And has a teacher that advocates for her and eventually runs away from that husband and ends up going to university and graduates in a very subdued ceremony in a very weird way.
It's very weird. Yeah. I don't know why her classmates weren't excited for her to be valedictorian.
That's odd. Overall though, I mean, so like we fast forwarded probably you need the first half hour and then you need the last half hour.
Yeah. Literally, I'm reading my notes. We watched the first 20 minutes and then the last 35.
And legitimately, if you do, that's a great movie because the lived experience of what it looks like she shot it in this village.
Yeah.
That like you take the winding things. It was fascinating that all the huts were of wood. In a lot of Eastern Africa that I've been in, they're made of clay. And so that was fascinating. And I liked seeing that. I liked all the little details of what life looks like there, the fish they eat, how they cook it, what it happens like, which is one of the reasons we watch the art in this Colonizers World Tour. Yeah. We want to see the lived inness of whatever we possibly can. And for that, really, really good. Also, it's a brutal sit. Her wedding is one of the most brutal scenes in a film that we've seen. And guys, this year hasn't been happy for our movie watching. And that scene alone, I almost want to just clip it and make everybody watch it. This is what child marriage looks like. This is what a marriage night with a child looks like. This is everyday life for a lot of girls and women around the world. And in order for us to be responsible global citizens, we have to hold that truth with the truth that I got the wedding day of my dreams with a man I fully consented with.
Yeah.
We have to hold those things as both of those things are true.
Yeah. That scene literally made me, I had a physical reaction to that scene. I felt sick to my stomach. And I think we talk about this a lot on this tour and in a lot of our other stuff, that like there's a little bit of the universal and the specific and everything.
Yep.
So for this, it's really valuable. Obviously, if you watched our 101, we didn't know a whole heck of a lot about Cameroon going in. And so, that's why we like to find these pieces of art, is to get some of that lived in point of view from the people that we're learning about and trying to build empathy for. So there's, the specifics of Cameroon, but like the larger ideas of what it is to be a girl and to be a woman in that part of the world, what gendered expectations are. It was really fascinating, the construction of the teachers and the educators called the villagers barbaric because they didn't want girls to get educated. And the educated people, the villagers, called evil.
Yeah.
And so, this sense of othering that we always do in order to sustain our identities and differentiate ourselves from others was really clear in this film. So there's some things that it did really well. The young woman who played Eka was phenomenal.
She got award buzz in African Oscars, the specific African Oscars, as did this movie. This movie was not just submitted to the American Academy Awards, but got quite a lot of attention at the African Academy Awards.
Yeah. And just, lessened only slightly by the choppy bits. Like she wins this competition that she escapes her husband to go to. And then all of a sudden the village is like, yeah, the girls should go to school because I want my girl to win prizes. And I'm like, really? That's all So that was,
it got a little, it was like the least Disney inspirational movie, and then it was entirely Disney.
it was the last 15 minutes were like straight up Disney. I literally, my last note is just a series of questions. What happened to her husband? What happened to her father? How did she get out? What happened to Lucas? Who paid his debts? It's just like, we left a lot of things hanging at the end there. But you know, her inspiration is Malala, and that's a story we've talked a lot about, and a person we know a lot about. And she has done remarkable things to humanize the struggles of girls to have autonomy and to gain an education around the world. And so, you know, I salute the Fisherman's Diary for telling the story. But our advice is just watch the first 30 and the last 30.
There's also other opportunities to tell these kind of stories, sadly, because they're all over the place. So after you potentially watch that hour of the 2.5-hour movie, make sure to check out both all of our other coverage in various, all the other things we name checked here, plus the great documentary, I Am Malala, which we haven't covered on here, but should. And
I have the book on my shelf behind me right there.
It's one of those, like, we know it so well, we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it. Yeah.
We're going to add that to our 2022 coverage so that we get a chance to dig into it. But there's lots of examples all around us of women who don't have some level of autonomy or don't have any. And it's an important thing to hold, as those of us who have a lot can celebrate that and leverage our autonomy for the power of other people. This is a strong reminder to do that as often as possible.
Yes, ma'am. All right. That wraps up our conversation about the Fisherman's Diary and our look at Cameroon for now. We have one more sub chapter in our chapter of French colonies. Next week, we're going to Vietnam. So
there's a joke in there about not being the only Americans to go or something like that.
There's a joke in there, but as we're filming this, the Taliban are taking over Afghanistan, remarkably parallel ways to the fall of Saigon. So gird your loins, buckle your seatbelt. Please join us for Vietnam. It's going to be a harrowing, if very interesting conversation.
Absolutely. And the art that we're watching is about the Saigon opera culture in the 1980s. So did you know they had one? We didn't.
I didn't.
Definitely join us for that. Until then, may you always be valued for who you are and not what your body can do. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.